You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
Welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, especially because there are so many of you that have asked me this question. And the very first time that I got asked this question, I was like, I really need to think about this. And it really just stayed at the back of my mind. And every time that we sign on new clients, I start to see over and over and over again, which clients are the most successful? And usually, it actually doesn't have as much to do with their knowledge or their education. And sometimes it doesn't even have to do with their skill set, which is actually quite fascinating because I think that a lot of people think that they need to go to the best coaching school. They need to fork out the most amount of money that they can to do a coaching certification. And I've actually seen some of my clients without certifications do better for their clients and actually get so much further financially. And it's interesting because when I start to think about this and when I start to think about, okay, well, what do they all have in common? It's not necessarily what you think. And so this is dedicated to all of my clients who are like, well, how can I be one of those people? How can I be one of those people who gets really great results, even if I am not the best business owner, or even if I don't have all of the skill sets, even if I haven't mastered my messaging, or I'm not really good at sales. So here we go. Are you ready? When I first started in business back in 2015, which is literally when I signed my very first one-to-one clients, which is it's crazy. It's actually 10 years now. Wow. I've been in business for a decade. I never really thought any of that would be possible for me before I started into business. I didn't even know that I wanted to be a business owner. So this is quite interesting, really thinking about this and thinking back to this. But when I first started, I remember that I had so many objections in my brain. And I specifically had a lot of objections in my brain in terms of what I could and couldn't do when I wasn't making any money. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind is I had the most objections in my brain in terms of what I could and could not do in my business when I was making the least amount of money, which basically means that I put so much friction between me and getting results. Okay. I put so much friction between me and getting results. I want that to just sink in. How much friction are you putting in the way for yourself right now that is not allowing you to let things be easy, to let things flow? And I think that a lot of people have this misconception about what flow in business is. I think a lot of people think that flow is just, I'm just going to meditate and things are just going to happen, versus what flow actually is and what I truly believe flow is. And I believe that flow is putting inspired action into your business and doing things in your business without any expectation of them and enjoying the process of flow. That's what we want to focus on. And so there's a few things, two things in particular that I have noticed about clients who are really, really successful versus people who struggle. And by the way, a lot of my team members have also utilized these two things with me to the point where I've actually had to have conversations with them. I've had to sit down with them and had to have conversations with them in terms of making sure that they don't use this type of language, even in my own business, because it can derail the progress of the entire team. And so the very first thing is speaking in absolutes. Okay. Speaking in negative absolutes in specific. So what do I mean by this? I'll give you a perfect example. When I was talking to a team member, this was actually last night. I was talking to a team member and she was telling me, she was like, Sara, you have had no quality leads since the beginning of this year. So last night we were on January the 4th, and she was basically like, yep, no quality leads since the beginning of this year. So that basically meant that for 4 days in a row, we didn't have anyone who was a coach who was responding to my ads. That was what she said. That was her language. Her language was an absolute no quality leads, zero. On the flip side of that, she had also stated that the new strategy that we were doing in business wasn't working. And I found this really interesting because we had already signed a client in the new year within the first 2 days of the new year following this strategy. And so I asked her to explain it to me more. And I asked her, what do you mean by this strategy isn't working? And she said, well, we hadn't gotten anyone replying to this strategy that we're doing. And I was like, so you haven't had anyone replying? 0 people. And she was like, well, no, we've actually probably gotten maybe 3 or 5 a day. And when I know my metrics and when you understand your own metrics, you will know that 3 to 5 people per day, especially if those are high quality people and you have really, really good messaging in your business, that's actually really, really good. Having 3 to 5 people send you a message per day is really good. But because she was following different metrics in the business that we had beforehand, she was thinking 3 to 5 is bad. 3 to 5 is nothing. And so she used an absolute. She said, nothing is working. And if I were to believe her, and if I were to adopt the same mentality and the same attitude, I would have then had to turn off my ads. I would have had to turn everything off and start from scratch. But because I'm a more experienced business owner, and because I understand the metrics and I understand the power of a positive attitude, I was like, something here doesn't seem right. And then I actually went in and I looked at all of the metrics that we had, and I looked at all of the metrics that she was reporting. And then what I realized was that we actually did have really great leads that were coming in. We had really great people that were coming in. The problem became that we just had a lot of other people who were coming in from our ads who were also not so great. And so the majority of people who are coming in at that specific point in time were not so great. And so what I could deduce from that is, instead of turning everything off, I just had to see, okay, well, where were the not so great people coming from? And I saw that, I caught it, and then I turned those off. And it's so interesting to me how anyone can derail their business just by saying nothing is working. When you speak in an absolute like that, trust me, you guys, when you say nothing is working, I've been working on my business for 3 months and nothing is working, you have already completely discredited all of the effort that you made within 3 months. And not to mention, there are small signs of progress with everything that you do. And so what I find personally is when people come to me and they speak in absolutes and they're like, nothing is working. And they come to me and they're like, this other coach that I worked with, nothing worked. I'm like, can we define what nothing is? And as we start defining it, then we start to realize, okay, well, it actually wasn't nothing. We got on 2 sales calls, but maybe the sales script wasn't really great. Or we got a few people following us, but our messaging was off. And so what we need to realize every single time that we take a risk or take a step in our business, there is something that we get out of it. And this is what I call a gratitude process and a gratitude spiral. And so if you can constantly stay in a gratitude process and a gratitude spiral for your business and understand that the last thing to grow on a tree is the fruit, you've already won. And I kid you not, I've had clients come to me. I remember my one client who made $20,000 in 95 days. She never had done any type of business before ever. She went from 0 to $20,000 in 95 days. And I remember in month 2 of us working together, she was like, I kind of want to start panicking because I don't really see anyone coming through yet. Like I'm not really seeing the clients coming through, but I'm trusting this and I'm trusting that all of this is working. And I also know and I believe and I feel good about the process that I'm in. And so she was just like, do you have any recommendations for me? And I was like, yeah, I think you're doing great. I think we need to keep on doing it. We tweaked a few things and then boom. End of month 2, she was signing on clients. Month 3, all of a sudden she was signing clients back to back. And then she signed her highest client to date 95 days into the program and made $20,000. Had she, in the middle of month 2 or at the end of month 2, been like, nothing is working. Oh my goodness. I just can't do this. She would have lost out on that. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how so many of us lose out on the opportunity because we're quitting right before we strike gold? Right before. And I can always tell the clients who are going to have that positive mindset and are going to succeed. And it's simply because they choose to believe that they will. And they choose to really focus on gratitude rather than focus on negativity. And it is really hard. And I remember myself in times in my own business where it was just as difficult for me, where I was saying, nothing is working. And I'd go to my coach and I'd be like, nothing is working. And then she'd remind me, actually, Sarah, you just signed on a client. Or actually, Sarah, let's take a look at what did work and let's take inventory of that. And so this is your reminder that speaking in absolutes and saying nothing is working is only going to deter you and is only going to harm you in the long run. And so instead of saying nothing is working, how can you really start to focus on the things that are working, the things that have moved the needle forward? And I do this every single month in my own business. And when I've had team members who are like, oh my goodness, things are slow, I will take a look at all the metrics and I'll be like, yeah, things are slow, but this is why things are slow. This is why things are going to speed up. And they always do. We always get back to the same amount that we always get to the point where we're hitting the goal. And if we don't hit the goal for whatever reason, we just barely didn't make it. And it's not about the goal. It's about the process. It's about who you're becoming as a process of achieving that goal. And I think that a lot of people who might not even be meant for entrepreneurship, in all honesty, all they want to see is the goal. And if they don't see the goal and they don't see the goal within a specific point in time, they just give up on everything. And that's not the attitude of an entrepreneur, unfortunately. You need to see the world with rose-colored glasses, and you need to keep on going no matter what. And so avoiding speaking in that whole absolute of nothing is working is going to help you exponentially get to a place of gratitude, get to a place of positivity where you're truly just enjoying the process. And the more that you can enjoy the process, the more that you're going to stay in the game. So that is huge. Now, the second thing that I hear that derails people's progress so much is the idea that you cannot do something because of blank part of your identity. So insert whatever piece of your identity you feel like stops you from doing things and becoming successful. Just insert that right there, and you're already derailing yourself, and you're creating, once again, unnecessary friction in your life. So, examples. I cannot do that or do that strategy, or I cannot get on sales calls, or I cannot do sales or sell in the DMs, or I cannot create that type of marketing, or I cannot get on video because I am Southern, or because I am an introvert, or because I have this specific characteristic in human design, or I am this specific type of person, or, I am, and literally insert anything there, anything you want, anything that you believe holds you back or you believe is the thing that doesn't allow you to do something. And if that thing isn't directly related to how your brain works, that has been proven scientifically, okay, that you cannot do that. So unless it is a learning disability, you're already creating friction there. And even if you have some sort of learning disability, there are so many different ways that you can do business. I actually have one of my assistant coaches who's working with me right now specializes in neurodivergence. And so she helps clients who have different capacities and different capacity issues truly succeed as well. And this is one of the quickest ways to derail yourself, is to essentially just claim that a piece of your identity doesn't allow you to do business. Because guess what? anyone can do business. Anyone with your skill sets, anyone who has a really great attitude, anyone can do business. I have had neurodivergent clients absolutely kill it in business. I have had introverted clients absolutely kill it in business. I actually have a friend who is going to get on a podcast who is a projector in human design, and she has a multi-7-figure business. And she really wants to come on here and do a podcast all about that, because it truly is about embracing your identity, but at the same time, not allowing your identity to dictate if you can or cannot do anything. And especially if you're new, it's so important to just embrace newness and embrace the fact that you're not going to know if you can do something or not until you try. You really just need to try. You just need to put yourself out there. And honestly, that naive aspect of just trying and being a beginner works so well. It really, really does. You know, I love personality tests and I love taking a look at all of the different aspects of myself, but I don't let them define me. I don't let myself say, well, you know, on the Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFJ. And so therefore that means that I have to be charismatic all the time. And it also means that I need to motivate other people and not persuade them. So therefore I can't be persuasive in my marketing. In fact, one of the best things that I've ever done for my business and for myself has been investing in programs and mentors and then just going into it completely blind, completely trusting what it is that I'm doing. And because I have that ability to just go all in, that's always why I succeed. Because I don't put any friction there. I don't put any excuses in front of me. I'm willing to do anything that it takes. And then, of course, after you do things, after you implement things, after you go through the process, then you can decide, okay, well, these are the things that I want to keep from this process. These are the things that I want to change. These are the things that I feel like might be burning me out. But you never know until you try. And so if you're not even willing to try, and if you're just putting friction in front of you, that is a surefire way to really just quit before you even get started. And you know, I just read a quote all about how the right doors will only open for you when you become the person that is meant to walk through them. And I think it's just so true. And it's so poignant with what I'm talking about, because when you can become the person who has a positive attitude and when you can become the person that doesn't create friction, all of a sudden you're shown the strategies, you're shown the systems, you're shown the mentor, you're shown the program that's going to help you to get through it. But it's not necessarily just about the strategies and the systems. It's also about who you're becoming as a process and through the process of implementing all of those strategies and systems. And so when I have truly looked at all of the really, really successful clients, they're all thinking and believing in abundance. They're creating less friction between them and the goal that they need to have. And they're always keeping that positive mindset. They're not talking in those absolutes of nothing is working. Sometimes they can get really frustrated, and we all do, right? I mean, this is what entrepreneurship is ultimately, when we're like, oh, things aren't working the way I want them to. But if we can always take a look at the positives, and if we can always take a look at things with rose-colored glasses and truly believe that we have everything that it takes to get there, and even if we don't have all the skill sets, we're going to learn them and we're going to go all in, that's when you become successful. Doesn't matter if it's 3 months, doesn't matter if it's 6 months, doesn't matter if it's a year, it's going to happen for you. And sometimes what happens, and I think that this is such a beautiful thing that unfortunately beginners don't really understand, is you could have no progress, or you could make no money for your first 3 to 6 months in business because something was misaligned. Something wasn't working. You went all in. You created everything that you needed to, but something wasn't there. And then all of a sudden, in month 9 of your business, you make this little tweak or you have this little epiphany. And then all of a sudden, you start booming. Your business starts making so much money. And you think to yourself, damn, what was the thing that helped me to boom and make all this money like almost overnight? And I think the beautiful thing is, so many people will say, okay, well, I made this one tweak. But the reality is it's not just that one tweak. It's the 9 months before that of you trying things, of you developing skill sets, of you failing that ultimately got you to month 9 where you're seeing everything line up for yourself. And a lot of the times we just need to learn that through experience. But when you can also believe that and start each day with a grateful heart for everything that you've learned, it's huge. I remember back in 2022, I just boomed with new mentors that I had hired. My business literally boomed. And I remember people in my program were like, okay, well, how are you getting so successful? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're doubling your income. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm also in a different stage of business than you are. I've done a lot of these processes before. I've been working on my messaging. I've been working on my client delivery. I have all of these other things that I've already had in place that maybe I didn't make a lot of money with over the past year, but because I've been working on them and because I've been developing them, all of a sudden I hire this new mentor. And then because they show me one different thing, I boom. But it's not just because of them that I boom. It's also because of everything that I did before that. And it's really hard to see this because everyone wants instant gratification. Everyone wants to focus on short-term versus long-term. But truly, it's about setting yourself up for that long-term game and the long-term wins that make all of the difference. So this is what I'm going to challenge you on today. How can you stay in the game for long-term? How can you get to a place where you're no longer talking in absolutes, where you're like, nothing is working? What can you focus on that is working? Every single day, focus on the thing that is working. And that's exactly what I told my team member. I told her, every day, what we're going to focus on in the reports are the things that are working. We're going to say, okay, these are the quality people that we got. These are the lack of quality people that we got. Based off of these two numbers, I will not speak in absolutes, but I can say this is my recommendation for how we're going to move things forward from an operational standpoint. And when we can also say that everything is working and there's no specific identity crutch that I need to hold on to that makes it harder for me to work on things than it does for others, and I'm just going to go all in, you're going to create such less friction in your life so you can get those results that much more easily. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Share it with a friend if you feel like they need to hear it. I think it's just so important. Like I said, you guys, I've been in business for 10 years, right? I've been full-time in business for 7. I've seen it all. And I can definitely guarantee you that if you really utilize these two things, you're going to change the way that you look at your business and you're going to become so much more successful. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.